Okay, welcome everybody to our webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Leah Watts. I'm your host for the afternoon. I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you for joining us. This webinar is going to be kind of how to survive the conference. So just a few things to go over with you guys before we really get into the meat of things. This webinar is part of our Folk Ed program, which is FAI's ongoing advocacy and outreach efforts with a goal to provide professional and career development opportunities. So we appreciate you joining us. We will be sending out a short survey after the webinar has finished. We would love your feedback. We're always wanting to improve these webinars. And so anything you can tell us, we really greatly appreciate. You guys should all be seeing a little control panel on your screen and just a few things to note in there. The first thing is we want questions. We want to know what you want to know about coming to our conference. So there is a simple questions panel. If you type a question in there, I will get that question. Either I will answer it or we will ask Angus throughout the presentation. So keep an eye on that. The other thing is this presentation is downloadable. There is a handouts section in your control panel, so you can follow along in that handout, or you can download it for later use, which we also highly recommend. There's a lot of great links in there that'll help you prepare for the conference. So before we get started, we're just going to do a few quick polls to find out who we have joining us today. So our first one is going to be, how many years have you attended Folk Alliance? Are you a first timer? Are you a veteran? Let us know. So we'll just have a little bit of time for that one. All right, so a few more seconds, get your vote in there. Alrighty, so it looks like we have a lot of first timers with us today. So first timers, welcome. We're so excited that you're going to be joining us for the conference. Angus, just so you know, 65% of our audience today is first timers. So we're super excited about that. And then 32% are within their first 5 years of attending. So now we're going to do another poll to just let us know who you are. Are you an artist? Are you a presenter? Are you part of the industry in another way? Let us know. So it looks like we kind of have a mix here. We've got 50% artists, 30% industry, and 20% presenters and bookers. Welcome. And then we've got one last thing from you. Where are you? Where are you joining us from today? Are you here in the US with us? Are you in Canada? Are you international? Let us know. So it looks like we've got almost a 90% US audience here today, Angus, which is great. But we've also got 4% international and 9% Canadian. So welcome, everybody. All righty. So let's get started. Angus, I'm going to pass the reins over to you, and he is going to let us know all the things we need to know.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're looking forward to providing you some practical advice on preparing for the upcoming conference and things to be mindful of when you're on site in Kansas City, and a few things to do at the end once you've gone back home and are recovering from the conference. By way of introduction, I'm Angus Finnan, the Executive Director of Folk Alliance International. I've been here with our Kansas City team since June of 2014. But my relationship with Folk Alliance goes back some 15 years prior to taking on a staff role here, when I attended as a touring songwriter and came for a number of years to do private showcases and an official showcase in Jacksonville when Folk Alliance was there. My first perspective is from that of an independent artist, and then working with management and agents and a record company, all of whom were connections made through Folk Alliance International, which was actually the North American Folk Music and Dance Alliance at the time. I later came, when my touring days were done, as the artistic director of the Shelter Valley Folk Festival. So came to Folk Alliance then as a presenter or a booker. So the tables were turned and I was looking for artists and attending showcases and events throughout the conference in a different capacity. That led to, in time, working on the board of directors as board president of what is now Folk Music Ontario, and what was then the Ontario Council of Folk Festivals. And in that time, came to Folk Alliance with a different hat on, looking more from a governance and operations standpoint, related to how the organization operated and how the event operated. And that included a deeper dive into the annual general meeting of Folk Alliance and the ways that the community gathered and reasons for the community to gather. And finally, in my role prior to coming to Folk Alliance, I worked with the Ontario Arts Council as their touring and audience development officer, and then came to Folk Alliance through the same event and process, but with a funder's hat on in terms of supporting some of the export-ready artists that were coming into this international marketplace. So I'll try and speak from various perspectives, but just so that there's, in case any questions come up, I'll certainly try and come at it from whichever angle you need. The first thing I'd like to do is just introduce you to some of the staff. This is our Kansas City permanent office staff. We certainly have other contractors who work with us throughout the year and on site, but just so you have some familiar faces, especially for the first timers joining us today and attending the conference. Jennifer Rowe is our Director of Operations. Alex Mallet is our Business Development Manager, so he takes care of all of our sales and sponsorship. Leah, who greeted you for this webinar, is our Office and Outreach Coordinator and is leading the charge on this entire webinar series. Jared Rivers is our Membership and Technology Manager. If you are a member or have done any processing of registration or membership, you've likely come across Jared, and you'll meet him in registration when you arrive on site. Erica Noguera is our communications manager and oversees all of our social media communications, our e-news, which goes out on a monthly basis. And now that you're registered for the conference, the conference updates, which only go out to registered attendees. Jenny Tonyas, who's our creative services manager and hiding behind one of her other creative services. Certainly not Folk Alliance service, but she is responsible for all of our web design and the creative materials, our posters and graphic design, which is done mostly in-house, including our program and pocket guide. And Marissa Kolka, who's our development and communications coordinator, assisting both Alex and Erica. So you'll likely cross paths with most of the staff. We also have an international representative, Sheena Keane, who's based in Ireland and helps coordinate our international conversations with artists and industry in advance of the conference and year-round at other events. We have Tressa Levasseur, who is our Canadian representative based in Hamilton, and others that you can find on the staff page of the website, including folks who are involved in our year-round operations behind the scenes. So what we're going to go through and cover today are some tips to prepare for the conference, some practical tips for once you arrive in Kansas City and dealing with the hotel and the logistics of being here for 5 days, a look at some of the programming highlights and ways to navigate the conference, and then a few post-conference tips and suggestions. So starting with preparation, so between now and the conference itself, which is coming up quickly, the first thing to do, obviously, if you have not yet registered, and there may be some people on this webinar who have not yet, is to register. The easiest way to do that, obviously, is to go to the website, and I'm just going to skip out to the website for a moment. And you'll see that here on the folkconference.org page, there's registration information and a link here to register for the conference. It should be noted that members of Folk Alliance receive a discount on registration. So if you're not a member, you should consider becoming a member, if for no other reason that there is a discount on registration, but there are certainly a suite of member benefits, and the membership page on folk.org that you're seeing here provides all of the levels of membership based on your needs or the organization that you represent or the number of artists in a group. A few things to be aware of in advance are that the conference, which has primarily activity on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, is one component of the 5 days in Kansas City. So depending on how early you are arriving and when you are leaving, there are other events to take in. They all do require advance purchase of tickets. So the International Folk Music Awards, which kicks off our event on February 14th, is off-site this year at the Folly Theater, beautiful historic theater in downtown Kansas City. And tickets for registered attendees are $10. The public, there are limited tickets for the public or for additional guests, and those are $30. The Kansas City Folk Festival bookends where the awards open the conference. The Kansas City Folk Festival closes it on Sunday. So coming down onto the main floor on Sunday, you'll see that the exhibit hall has turned into an artisans market with jewelers and painters and potters, and there will be 4 stages, including our main stage, running. This does require a ticket this year. So this is a public event, and we have tickets on sale currently for public, but registered delegates also receive a discount on those tickets. And throughout, running concurrent with the conference, is the Louis J. Myers Music Camp, named after Louis J. Myers, who was my predecessor and who passed away, unfortunately, but was seminal in creating sort of the new face and era of Folk Alliance International. He led the team for a decade out of the Memphis office, oversaw the last Toronto edition of our conference, and brought the organization to Kansas City. So the music camp takes place in the adjacent hotel for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and discounted advance registration is available for anyone interested in taking master classes or introductory classes for a suite of instruments. In terms of resources, really most of the information that you might need is online on the website, and that includes a number of things that you would be well advised to preview in advance of leaving for the conference. Now is a perfect time to start to look at the attendee list, the program book. So the program book is actually online at this stage, and just skipping to this page, you'll see that this is something that you'll receive a print copy of at registration, but you're welcome to go through and start to chart out the things that you're interested in and make a plan for your time at the conference. So each of these items under the resources are linked to a page, and you can follow through with any of those in order to access that information. Certainly do recommend taking the time now to download the conference app. It's very useful on site and allows you to create a favorite list and basically build your own agenda that will prompt you with reminders of the things that you were interested in seeing. It also has a number of features that allow you to navigate the panels, the official showcase program, and the late night program. And speaking of which, there are also links for both the daytime program schedule, which will link back to your program book, and the evening programming schedule, which is a list of the official showcases. Two things here at the bottom of resources that I'd like to remind everyone about. There are forums, so these are online forums where you can post questions or information. Certainly with both of our hotels completely sold out at this stage, the forums are being actively used by folks who are looking for roommates or have room for roommates, for those who wish to stay on site and don't mind rooming with someone else. And finally, for those who are coming from outside of the US, I realize it's a small component of today's webinar attendees. We do have reminders of all of the details related to accessing the US for a business conference. This is not a work event in that it's not an employment scenario where someone is coming to perform for the public. This is a closed industry event, a business conference, and requires the appropriate travel documentation for such. For any Canadians who are joining us today, that's a standard B2. That's not applied for in advance. That's what's granted as you access the US, either crossing the border or flying out of an airport or coming through customs in the US. Whereas our international guests from outside of North America, I would strongly encourage reviewing the details related to accessing the US for a business conference. Various hashtags here, we certainly encourage and invite you to share in advance that you're coming, but also during your time here at the conference. So one of the most important things, whether you're a first timer or a veteran, given the time, the expense, and the potential return from being at the conference, it's critical to have a plan for the event. It can be overwhelming, exciting, exhausting, but for the time and money spent coming to the event, having a plan around what it is that you are looking for and what it is that you want to come out of the conference with is critical. So determining why you're coming and writing it down is helpful. For some artists, it might be that this is the need is to find an agent. It doesn't mean that that you will necessarily come out of the conference with an agent, but if that is the motivation for coming to the conference, in addition to all of the networking and generating some bookings from the showcases, if you actually have a goal to find an agent, then that helps you prioritize what it is you do between now and then. So if, for example, you've identified that you would like to meet an agent, going through the list of attendees that you saw on the resources page will allow you to see who's registered for the conference and sort by industry and identify the agents, and then perhaps research the agents and reach out to them in advance. So setting up meetings, or at least having preliminary introductions, can be very helpful. We had 2,700 delegates at the conference last year, all of the activity taking place in one hotel. So it can be quite complex and complicated. And by the time you've met with someone in passing and tried to set up a meeting, it may be difficult to schedule. So setting up anything in advance based on that delegate list is ideal. And it will also allow you, having identified a goal, to go through the program book and circle the panels or the workshops where, if you're looking for an agent, where people are talking about what agents do or what agents are looking for. So identifying within the program any of the topics that relate to that goal will help you narrow it in. Sometimes, certainly in my early days as an artist, I would go to panels that had festival presenters, festivals that I knew I was not ready to play, that might have been the larger festivals, but I would go and sit up near the front and hear what the festival directors had to say. And more than anything, I was studying who they were as people, what made them tick, what was of interest to them, so that when it was the right time in a month or a year or 3 years, that I had a better sense of who that person was in their personal and professional capacity. So there's a way to do research within the conference that's not about an immediate achievement of that goal, but that has some long-term strategy to it. And obviously, looking at the program for the panel and network sessions that you might attend, so that you can mix and mingle with folks, whether it's a peer session that's only for managers, or whether it's a meet and greet that allows the folk DJs to meet with artists and labels. All of those things within the program will help you focus your time. So in terms of that that plan of action, it can also include, when on site, how you are going to ensure that that you are visible, what events you should be at, and where you might make connections. So practical tips. You've done all of your prep, you've read all the materials, you know who's coming, you've reached out to people, and you've made a bit of a schedule, you've downloaded the app. You are arriving in Kansas City. So it's something as practical as the fact for our first timers that at the Kansas City airport, there aren't taxis waiting in a queue. When you get out towards the curb, there are phones at the sliding doors, and you pick up that phone and taxis arrive in 2 minutes. There are certainly Uber. There are also other travel options, and this link for travel and transportation will take you through to some of the recommended transportation in the city. Kansas City is an incredible place. Obviously, the conference is full of things to do, but you shouldn't miss the opportunity to take in a bit of Kansas City, especially if you're coming early or staying late. And the Kansas City Guide will walk you through all of the nearby restaurants, art galleries, museums, and other attractions. I've been quite pleasantly surprised by how much Kansas City has to offer, having moved from Toronto to the Midwest in a few years ago. And for those who haven't been here or haven't been through the Midwest, important to note the weather in KC. So KC is short form for Kansas City, for those who are new to the area. And it is Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas. The city is actually split between the two states. So you'll be in Kansas City, Missouri. This is just a snapshot of the long-term forecast for the week of the conference, and some historic average high and lows for context. So it is winter, but last year we were out in shirt sleeves on the hotel roof for a group photo. That was unseasonably warm, and it can certainly be quite cold. So do come dressed for winter and make sure you check in advance. In terms of coming on site at the Westin Hotel, once you walk in the front doors of the hotel, you're going to turn to the left to come down the hall to registration. This is the first place to check in. This is where you will get all of the information you need about the conference. You'll get your badge, which provides you all of the access to all of the conference activity, and also the wristband that is required to access any of the private showcase floors and any of the official showcase rooms. So both your badge and your wristband must be worn and at all times, and this is where you receive it, at registration. You'll also receive your tote bag, which includes the program book, the pocket guide, and all of the interesting advertisements and CDs that are part of that tote bag. We're going to take a look at the program, the map that's in the program, but this is the map of the hotel. Obviously, there are a lot of rooms in play. So this is the ballroom level, which is the second floor, and then the lobby level. So coming in, orienting yourself to where the rooms are and what the activities are will help you not miss things that you've scheduled and take in most of the event. So our front doors are here. Your registration is down towards the end between the two main showcase rooms, and the activity happens on both the lobby floor and the ballroom level. The ballroom level includes our exhibit hall and the main stage area and various other smaller official showcase rooms where the panels are also held during the day. This year, we are returning to a terrace stage option. This is in sort of the atrium level between the two floors, with a beautiful rock outcrop and a waterfall, which gets turned off during the conference. So practical tips in terms of once you've arrived, you are here for multiple days. The host hotels, so the Westin and the Sheraton, are joined by an overhead covered and heated link. So it's a walkway that takes about 4 to 5 minutes to go between the two hotels. The two hotels are linked to the Crown Center. So there's shopping and multiple restaurants in the Crown Center. There is a wine store and a small convenience store as well, and certainly other amenities in the area. In terms of food, there are restaurants in both hotels, the Sheraton and the Westin. There are restaurants inside the Crown Center, everything from Italian to pizza to wraps, and a coffee shop. It's about 15-minute walk to restaurants in the area. Kansas City is famous for its barbecue, and there's certainly one within Jack Stack's, which is within walking distance of the conference itself. We do have food trucks on site each night on the main floor, obviously, just outside of the doors near registration. This was something that we introduced last year and will have once again from 6 to 10 p.m. for those of you who are running between official showcases and want to grab a bite to eat. Costantino's Market is a grocery store that's about 10 minutes away, 5-minute drive, 10 minutes if you're taking the free Kansas City streetcar. This is a brand new streetcar that runs the length of Main Street from the Westin Hotel down to the River Market area where our office is located. And there are plenty of restaurants along the streetcar line. That same streetcar line will take you to a CVS pharmacy, a FedEx store, liquor store, and a clinic, which are all in the area. We do have a recommended print shop that you are welcome to approach in terms of print jobs that you may want to have done here in Kansas City rather than bringing print materials with you. Another practical tip just relates to self-care. This is an intense 5 days. People are up early. There's programming all throughout the day, and the nights are long. It's not uncommon for people to be up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning and back at it again the next morning. So there are practical things to do, and first and foremost is to actually manage your time and to rest, especially if you're taking late nights. It certainly does take a toll on everyone. Another thing to consider is bringing extra shoes and changing your shoes a couple of times a day, just to give your feet a break, and perhaps cushioned insoles. I certainly buy a pair every year and wear through them over 5 days. Bring a pedometer if you'd like to see how much traveling you actually do over the 5 days. This is an event where you're going to be shaking a lot of hands. In some ways, it's like a little international petri dish. So you want to make sure that you're washing your hands or using sanitizer, or doing whatever it is you can to ensure that you stay as healthy and germ-free. It is also February. It's a notorious time for people being ill or getting ill. So taking care of yourself rest, hydration, and hygiene are all key to that. There is a gym and a pool on site. We offer a couple of yoga classes throughout, so there are ways to also just step out of the fray of the conference and have a bit of physical activity time. It is an event like any other music industry event that does end up circling around evening showcases that include bars, receptions, and hospitality. So moderating consumption, appreciating that it's fun. This is also still a business environment, and you do have days and days of business activity. So the better that you're able to manage that, the sooner you're going to be able to achieve your goals, and part of that is simply moderating consumption. And in terms of general health and extended access to services, we do have a health fair that happens throughout the day during the conference in partnership with Music Cares and Sight and Sound. And this includes everything from dental and vision screenings to doctors on site for physicals, free eyeglasses, custom earplugs. So something definitely to consider taking advantage of. Moving to the actual program, now that you're settled into your room and you're ready to take in the event. For those who are arriving as early as Tuesday, we have a tote bag stuffing event. The 3,000 tote bags don't magically have everything put in them. We rely on volunteers and generous early arrivals to help out, and as a result of doing that, we're able to provide those tote bags to everyone, and we have a party afterwards for anyone who participates in that. Wednesday is the kickoff night with the International Folk Music Awards. The little map just to the right shows you the distance. It's about a 20-minute walk, about a 5-minute drive, and about a 10-minute free streetcar ride and short walk to the Folly Theatre. Again, tickets are required for that. Wednesday also has a first-timers orientation during the afternoon. That's in the program book. And obviously, it's the kickoff of the private showcases that evening. All of that happening back at the Westin Hotel. There's a beautiful park just while we're looking at the map beside the Westin Hotel that's nice for a walk. It's quite a steep incline, but it's a nice morning walk. And Union Station, which is just beside the hotel, has it's an incredible building to take in, but also has some interesting options in terms of entertainment and sightseeing. So moving to the daily program.
Angus, just to interrupt real quick, I apologize. One thing with the Folly too is that we will be having our complimentary transportation to the Folly Theatre.
That's right. Thank you for that reminder.
You're very welcome.
So for those just jumping back to that, for the International Folk Music Awards, which are at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, there is a reception at the Folly Theatre that starts at 6 p.m. and there is a free shuttle that leaves from the hotel starting at 5:30. So 5:30 Wednesday, free shuttles to the International Folk Music Awards at the Folly Theatre, for which you need a ticket, a $10 ticket. Programming on a daily basis, the only item here that is only on one day is the first item. On Thursday, there's the annual general meeting, and this takes place at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. An AGM, it's the annual general meeting of the members of Folk Alliance International. Now that may sound stoic and dry, but it is an opportunity for you to come and meet the board of directors and take in a very short presentation that reveals the activities of Folk Alliance International as a 30-year-old charity and the work that we do year-round, including an overview of our annual report from last year, our financial statements for the year, the introduction of new directors who are elected by the membership or appointed by the board, and other details about upcoming activities and announcements, formal announcements by the organization. You don't have to be a member of Folk Alliance International to attend the AGM, so everyone is welcome, and there's free coffee in advance of the AGM. And it's a nice way to sort of get things rolling and understand a bit more of what the organization does beyond the conference. On a daily basis, there is an exhibit hall with over 70 exhibitors, everything from manufacturers to instrument makers, agents, festivals, and service organizations. So worth taking in. It's open from noon until 4 each day on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The health fair, as we mentioned, is available on a daily basis. Instrument check is available not only on the main floor of the hotel, but also on the late night private showcase floors. So there are instructions inside the program book on how to take advantage of that. And there are regional meetings. So Folk Alliance International has 5 regional affiliate organizations that represent the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest, the Midwest, and the Far West. And those include Canadian provinces and territories, and also Mexico. So those meetings are a chance for you to meet with other members and board members of those regions, all of which host their own smaller conferences specific to the regions. And obviously, once again, we have official showcases and private showcases nightly. The Lewis J. Myers Music Camp, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Sunday's Kansas City Folk Festival. For those who are registered delegates of the conference, who still have their wristband and badge, there's a closing party on Sunday. That's off-site, and that is listed in the program and will be broadcast through our app as well. Daytime panels and programs, just starting to wrap up at this stage. This is once again a time to consider the goals that you set for yourself. So to look at what are the professional development opportunities and relationships that you are coming to develop. So knowing that most of the folks here on this webinar are artists and first-time attendees. The lure can be showcase, but there are many ways to take advantage of the conference that include building relationships in addition to having people see your work. Sometimes building the relationships over a coffee or after hearing someone comment on something at a panel leads someone to then be interested in coming to your showcase because of the relationship you developed in a way that may be more productive than the ad or the flyer or the poster. So good to consider what relationships and what aspects of the program might help you achieve that goal. Some of the highlights just to be aware of, mentor sessions. This is a chance for artists to sign up to have brief mentorship sessions with senior artists and to talk peer-to-peer about your career and options, whether it's related to the conference or in general about your activity and work as an artist. There are peer sessions. These are for industry, so sessions that are exclusively for managers, for agents, for presenters. There are speed meetings, which are basically business-to-business pitches, and these are with presenters and industry and available for artists, agents, and managers to meet and have speed meetings. There are also global meetups. This is new this year, but a chance for anyone who is based in Europe, for example, to meet. This is like a peer session, but it's based on the territory that one is from or primarily working in. There will also be, for the first time, a Latin American meetup. And although we don't have many Latin American delegates coming directly from South and Central American countries, there are certainly plenty of artists based in Canada and the US who are from Latin America or have touring relationships there. And then we certainly do have a few artists coming in from that market as well. We are holding a community gathering this year. Last year we had an Indigenous ceremony and gathering. This year we're having community conversation about harassment, sexual harassment and discrimination in the music industry, inclusive of the folk music industry. And it's a training session and something that we're hoping to have maximum attendance at. There's also an artist in residency project that will be presented on Saturday in advance of the keynote presentation by Mary Chapin Carpenter at 4 p.m. and various interviews and book signings and receptions, all of which are worth taking in and are listed in the program. And finally, as it relates to time at the conference, for those who are new to the conference environment or to Folk Alliance, in terms of business etiquette, I'll start there and then go into the values. This is a business event as much as it is a community gathering. So folks are coming here representing the agencies they run, the businesses they run, the nonprofit festivals and organizations that they present, and for many of the artists and entrepreneurs, the careers that they are hoping to forward. So it's important at all times throughout the conference to be mindful that this is a professional work environment. If folks are talking to someone and you're anxious to talk to that agent or that manager or that presenter, waiting for the appropriate time to talk to them, having a less of a pitch approach and more of a conversational approach. Certainly for our presenters and our key industry folks, it can be quite overwhelming when everyone wants their time or attention and everyone feels that they should be added to their roster. And taking a less aggressive approach and a more relationship building approach is certainly the etiquette for most of the interactions you'll have after panels or in the exhibit hall. Folk Alliance International did issue a value statement last year. We'll be recirculating that shortly to all of our registered attendees. But in short, we strive to make Folk Alliance International an inclusive, safe, and inviting environment, and everyone is welcome. We reject all forms of discrimination and harassment, and this is an important part of the community ethos of folk music and certainly a core value to Folk Alliance International. We encourage all of our member organizations, our community members, and our delegates to not only be mindful and respectful of these values, but to, in fact, embed those in their career activity and in the organizations that they run if there aren't similar values or policies in place already. And we will be issuing a pledge at the end of our community gathering related to sexual harassment and discrimination, and encouraging as many delegates and members to sign on to that pledge this year. And post-conference, just wrapping up now, you've had an incredible 5 days in Kansas City. You ate more barbecue than you thought you ever would. You've made more friends. You have a stack of business cards and you can't remember anyone's faces. You have a stack of CDs and you wonder where the CD player is that you put in the basement years ago so you can listen to them now. And you finally get home and are reading the program book because you forgot to read it in advance and everything was so overwhelming at the conference that you just ran with the flow. You're back home. It's an important time to treat after the conference with the same sort of diligence as pre-conference. So that includes following up with the contacts that you made. Not necessarily on the plane on your way home, but to give a bit of breathing room and to drop a short note to say, hey, I really appreciated that conversation, or thanks for taking time, was glad to have a coffee. I heard you in this panel. I really, I was struck by this comment that you made. That type of follow-up is part of deepening the relationships that you've made. We will be launching registrations, tickets for next year's conference in Montreal at this year's conference. So if you don't have a chance during the conference to purchase at the lowest rate, they will still be available until the end of February before it goes up to our early bird rate. So this is a change for us. We'll have year-round registrations, and if you've had a great experience and have touch base with some of the Canadians who are there and are looking at Montreal 2019. We'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of John Lennon and Yoko Ono writing Give Peace a Chance during their bed-in in the very hotel that we'll be at. Montreal is an incredible city, and the theme for the conference is the spirit of creativity. So we'll be looking at the artistic process. And if looking for a discount is of interest to you, purchasing sooner than later is the way to go. And there are always volunteer opportunities. We have 250 volunteers on site. You'll probably make friends with some of them. They're omnipresent throughout the conference, and there's always need for additional eyes and ears and fresh energy on the floor of the conference. So it's another way to come to the conference and remove some of the cost. Finally, there are other Folk Alliance international events, including our regional conferences that I mentioned, and certainly other events throughout the year. We're present at many conferences, so once you're back from our event, joining us at stages at South by Southwest, WOMEX, Americana, IBMA, other partner events that we attend as staff, or events including our Grammy celebration of the folk music album nominees this coming Saturday in New York. So from time to time, do check in with our website, or keep an eye on our e-news for events that you can join us at. And that is a lot of information. So I'm sure that there are some questions.
Yes, we do have a few questions. So I'm just going to kind of go through our list, and attendees, please send in your questions. We do have a little bit of time to answer them. So if you can think of anything, we will try and have an answer for you. So the first question comes from Bob Livingston. He asks, or he says, he feels he may be spread too thin. He has an official showcase and 5 private showcases. What should his concentration be? What should he be doing to kind of survive the week? Do you have any just quick advice?
I would say that that's an average for folks coming in who are doing both an official and privates. If they're all on the same night, you're probably spread too thin. But it's also probably too late to change much of that at this stage. Really, just to pace yourself, to not worry too much about having everything be full. You can play to a room of 3 people and have a key booker for a major festival be one of those 3. So I think just managing your own expectations around certainly the late night private showcases, to enjoy them, to really take the time to build relationships with other artists as much as other industry, and to appreciate that there are 80 private showcase rooms all operating simultaneously. So it is a bit of a musical zoo to be enjoyed as much as it is to be approached as business work.
Great. Kind of relating to that private showcases, Angela has a question about, can you just tell us more about what the private showcases look like?
Sure. So our official showcases are juried. So applications come in from May through the summer, and we have industry juries in the US, Canada, and internationally that select the 180 artists who have official showcases in the ballrooms and meeting rooms on the ground floor and ballroom floor. And those are full production lighting and sound. The private showcases, which start after the official showcases end, are on the 5th, 6th, and 7th floor of the hotel, and they're literally in hotel bedrooms. So walking down the the hallway of the hotel in room 501, there might be Scandinavian fiddle players all night. Across the hall in 502, it might be all Delta blues. In 503, it might be a record company that's showcasing their artists. And room 504 might be 3 artists who went in together and have booked the room and are self-presenting. The rooms get decorated. Some will have hospitality and drinks. Some pay to have the beds removed and rent chairs to put in to create a little venue, and others are quite informal. Some of the rooms are premium rooms and have sound systems, or larger rooms managed by larger sponsors. But for the most part, they're all acoustic and in standard bedrooms, just like you would see in any other hotel.
Great. Another question we have from Jim is there a policy regarding promo materials at the conference? And someone else actually asked, do you have any tips for what to bring, what promo materials to bring? So can you cover that?
Sure. So there is a policy around promotional materials in an effort to reduce our environmental impact. We don't permit flyers and handouts and paper promotional material, including posters, on the two main floors. So that's the public space of the hotel, the ground floor, and the ballroom floor. Certainly, you're welcome to have materials with you so that in conversation, if someone is interested, you're able to hand them a business card or a download card or a postcard or flyer to invite them to your showcase on the private showcase floors. But in terms of leaving things out on tables and counters, most of that ends up in recycling anyway, because it in the past became piles and piles of promotional material. So in place of that, we have digital ad screens at each one of the official showcase doors, and those are available, although the deadline is looming. So you would want to go to the sales page of the conference website to determine whether or not you would be able to deliver a digital ad. That said, on the private showcase floors, there are posters that are applied to almost everything, requiring green painter's tape to apply them to the walls of the hallways, the elevator area, and the private showcase rooms. And certainly there are flyers and promotional materials that get used. Folks get very inventive. You know, one of the most effective promotional materials that happened over the past few years was a band called OPEP out of Australia. And it had snowed the night before. They went out onto the lawn and did the SOS version of their snow text and just put their band name, OPEP. So everyone waking up, looking out the window, looked out at the ground and saw OPEP. It was brilliant branding, cost them nothing, and was far more effective than 2,000 postcards.
Great. I think that's a great answer. This is a question from Christina, kind of more towards industry. Do you have any tips for industry that are wearing multiple hats? So if they're a presenter, but they also do management and also do event production, what are your, what's some guidance for that?
I think it comes back to prioritizing what the goal is for attending. And obviously, at the time of registration, you're required to identify your primary role and your secondary role. And I think that designation, obviously, if you've selected to be identified as a presenter, as it will appear on your badge, there's a reason that you chose that as opposed to the management role. That doesn't mean that you can't take in multiple events. There are very few events that are restricted to your badge designation, and those are really designed to ensure that, you know, when we say that it's a presenter's reception, that it doesn't become infiltrated by all of the artists who know that all the presenters are in that room, and that it really does allow for segments of our delegates to have professional conversations as opposed to interacting in a more of a pitch scenario. So I think if you wear multiple hats going through, there are different tracks in the program. So we have a presenter track, and that means that it's a series of workshops and panels that are for presenters specifically, and they're color coded and flagged as such. There's another one for industry, there's another one for artists, and another one for community, meaning it's relevant to anyone and everyone. There's no restriction with any of those, so an artist can go and sit in on a presenter panel, but those will help you streamline and focus where you want to be at different times of the day.
Great. Bianca just sent in a message. Can you share more about the Speed B2B meeting / pitches and how those typically work? Is this arranged prior to the conference or on-site at the conference?
So, great question. They are arranged in advance, and assuming that there is space, there will be a sign up on site at the sessions, but we do anticipate that they will fill up. There are always cancellations. Either someone can't attend or forgets they signed up for it, or stayed up too late the night before and can't make it down. So it's worth dropping by to check in and see if there are any cancellations or spaces. That will be going out, that notice, link, and invitation will be going out to any registered delegates of the conference within the week, I believe. So looking for your conference update email will provide the links for signups for any of those sessions. And it's a good time to mention that if anyone has on this webinar has a background or academic interest in terms of archiving, there is an archivist summit happening on Thursday morning. There's also a cultural policy and funders summit happening. So if you work in that field at a municipal, state, province, or national level, these are closed door sessions that are a higher level conversation around archives at a national, state, and municipal level, and then also the cultural policy and funding decisions and activities.
Great. So Pete is asking, kind of pre-conference, if you're applying for an official showcase, where should you be in your career? What are jurors necessarily looking for? When should you consider applying for an official showcase?
Great question. There are official showcase artists who have been touring for 30 years. There are official showcase artists who just released their first CD and are actively building their career. So it's there are all sorts of levels from emerging to luminaries. That said, this is an international conference, so the bookers, the buyers who are coming, range in level from house concert presenters to the famous folk clubs nationwide to the major festivals, including festivals abroad. So most of our industry and presenters are looking to discover artists, but ultimately looking to work with artists who are ready to be out on the road, who have a professional career ahead of them, and who are primarily working full-time at this and market ready and tour ready in terms of being available if they're being booked. So with our regional conferences, there's more of a focus on the region. So if you know that really you're only touring in your state beyond your city, it may not be the right time to be putting yourself out there for an official showcase at an international level if ultimately you're not going to be able to accept invitations to tour beyond and as attractive as that may be, there's a certain momentum and a certain amount of booking that's required for it to become feasible. So there's the advantages to applying regardless of whether one gets an official showcase or not are twofold. One is that it locks in the lowest rate. So even if you don't get accepted for a showcase, it enables you to register for the conference at the early bird rate long after the early bird rate has expired. So there's one advantage to doing it. The other is that it puts your work out in front of a professional industry jury of venue and festival ADs and select media who all listen to the work, and as a result, whether or not you receive an official showcase, become exposed to your work and your career.
Great. So we are at 1 o'clock. So I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining us. We will continue to answer questions, but if you do have to leave, thank you. We hope this was helpful for you. We would greatly appreciate if you would complete the survey that will be heading your way. And we will see you in February. So back to questions, Angus. We did have a question about, so this is from Danielle. She says, knowing that it is a great chance to network, but an amazing place to hear live music and commune with fellow songmakers, how much effort, should be spent chatting, promoting yourself, and making contacts versus just hanging out and enjoying your time?
Great question. And it is, as much as it is an industry conference that we work on all year and that people come to in order to further their careers and survive at what they do, it is also a family reunion, if you will, and a great time to take in the work of other artists, to learn, to be inspired, to come up with new ideas, to develop friendships. So it's there is a balancing act, and there's only so much business one can do in a day, and there are plenty of reasons to just relax and hang with friends new and old. I think it ultimately comes down to the goal that you've set for yourself in terms of why you've chosen to attend, to spend this time and money and this travel effort to come to this gathering. For some, this is our 30th anniversary, and it's to come and celebrate the story of folk music and the progress of Folk Alliance over the 30 years. For others, this is very tactically about coming to find an agent or be showcased by the label for a certain presenter, and there is a game plan related to that, and this fits into a bigger picture. And for the others, it's certainly to simply network and make new connections in whatever way, as intense or as informal as is comfortable, and that helps achieve whatever the goal is that you've set for yourself.
Great. Catherine, who has attended NERFA, one of our regions, which yay, we're excited about that, asks, NERFA has DJ mailboxes where you can drop off CDs and they would get mailed to them. Do we have that at FAI, or do we have something similar?
We don't, mostly because with 2,700 delegates and over 1,000 artists last year, we would need wagons as opposed to drop boxes. We do have a Meet the DJs reception, which is more formal than a reception. It also will have options to meet at a table one-on-one with different DJs grouped by regions, and that can allow for some targeted attention to the DJs that you actually want to get CDs to. The DJs and presenters in this environment certainly are comfortable talking to artists that they've seen showcase and requesting a promotional copy. If you're playing any private showcases, often artists will have CDs available so that those who attend the private showcase and wish to pick something up do. It's good to try and collect a business card or the name of folks that you're giving or CDs to, or that are collecting those, or download cards, so that you're able to follow up and check in with them. But unfortunately, the volume would be such that that the drop boxes are a thing of the past for us at this stage.
Great. So I'm just looking through. One person was asking, what will be the pre-early bird registration fee for next year? And can you kind of explain the timeline of early bird for next year's conference, as it will be a little different?
That's a great question. So we are going to do a 30th special. Typically, our early bird price is $250 for the conference. That price hasn't gone up in over a decade. So it's one of the lower priced conferences on the scene in terms of international events. But as mentioned, we'll be launching registration for our Montreal conference at the conference this year. So when you walk in to register, there will also be a booth for the Montreal conference. We're doing a special for our 30th by taking $30 off the $250 early bird price from our conference date this year until the end of February. So it's our 30th conference special. It's $220. So $30 less than our normal early bird rate. That's only available for members of Folk Alliance. So if you're not a member, it's worth considering becoming a member in order to access that. From March until May, we will go to our early bird rate of $250. And that, again, is a membership rate. The summer from June through August, it's $325. Non-members pay $425. In the fall, from September to November, it's $400. Non-members pay $500. The winter rate from December to February is $475, $575 for non-members. And the walk-up, if you wait an entire year and in February come to the conference without purchasing in advance, it's $550 for a member and $650 for a non-member. So absolutely, at $220 for members, the best time to act is if you know that this is what you're doing on an annual basis, whether it's attending Folk Alliance or trying to forward your career or network. Certainly Montreal is going to be a special year, and $220 is the lowest rate that we've ever had.
Amazing. Okay, I think that covers most of our questions here today. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to send us an email. We can be reached at FAI@folk.org, and we would love to answer all of your questions. And we will see you in February. Angus, do you have any last words?
Not other than to thank everyone for joining us today, and we're looking forward to having you all here in Kansas City.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Keep your eyes out for the next webinar and for the survey that will be heading your way. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.